A peaceful morning, bright sunlight, calm skies, and somewhere inside a quiet apartment, a guy was sleeping like the world didn't exist. Suddenly, his phone started ringing. Not just ringing. The ringtone itself sounded painfully cheesy. "You are the apple of my eye." Bro was definitely down bad. Half asleep, he grabbed the phone and answered the call without even opening his eyes. And on the other side was Yelian, the girl he secretly liked. She immediately started scolding him. "Still in bed? It's already noon." The guy instantly woke up after hearing her voice. Now the crazy part is, Yelian tells him she bought ribs for him, and she's planning to cook dinner for a lonely college guy. That's basically a marriage proposal already. Then suddenly, Yelian says she has something important to ask him. The boy freezes. His heart starts racing. His brain completely shuts down. And before she can even finish a sentence, this idiot screams, "Yes." Bro accepted before hearing the question. Then he starts shouting emotionally, "I will be whoever you want me to be." Man was ready to sign his soul away. The guy gets so emotional that he almost confesses, "Yelian, I love." But before he can finish, everything suddenly changes. His expression freezes. His eyes widen in horror. And then he wakes up, sweating, panicking, breathing heavily. It was all a dream. But not just any dream. A memory. A nightmare from the very first day the zombie apocalypse began. The atmosphere instantly becomes darker. No romance. No warmth. Only silence. Then suddenly, a horrifying zombie appears near the room. But instead of panicking, the guy calmly stares at it. Because that zombie belongs to him. Yeah, this man can literally control zombies. The zombie looks terrifying. Red hair, pale skin, dead eyes. Chained like a dangerous beast. And apparently, if our main character relaxes too much, his zombie puppets lose control. That alone tells us one thing. This ability is insanely dangerous. But then, the protagonist takes back control. He casually tosses the zombie a set of keys and says, "Start the engine. Time to move." Bro, what? This zombie is basically his driver now. Outside, the city has completely fallen. Streets are filled with endless hordes of zombies. Human civilization is gone. The protagonist reveals the real reason he's moving. Yelian's house is just across the street. He's looking for the girl from his dream. But the roads are packed with the undead. One wrong move, and he dies instantly. Then suddenly, vroom, a red car speeds down the street, screaming tires distracting the massive horde. "Great chance. Let's go," he yells. As they rush through, he spots two survivors trapped behind a metal gate, crying out for help. But our protagonist doesn't slide in to play the hero. He coldly looks away and thinks, "Two idiots." Crying for help at such a time only attracts more zombies. Right on cue, the horde swarms the gate, eating the survivors alive. Looking at his hand in these shadows, our protagonist notices something genuinely terrifying about himself. Watching people that doesn't make him feel sad. He feels absolutely zero pity. In fact, he realizes it's a kind of pleasure. Is his mental connection to the undead slowly eating away at his own humanity? He doesn't care. To find Yelian, he needs this dark power. Connective energy glows around his hand as he commands his puppet, "Go check the street nearby. Ye's house is around here." Watching the zombie puppet casually walk among the infected without being attacked is insane. As it scouts ahead, it discovers a crashed double-decker bus. A huge red bus numbered 618. The moment our protagonist sees that number through his zombie's eyes, his face completely changes. No way. Because every single time Yelian came to visit him, she took bus 618. Panicking, he orders the puppet inside, "Let me have a look." The zombie climbs into the bus to investigate. Bodies are everywhere. Blood covers the seats. Absolute nightmare fuel. Then suddenly, the puppet stops. There, inside the back of the dark bus, stands a girl. Long black hair. A white dress stained with fresh blood. But as she turns around, her eyes flash with a terrifying, glowing red trail. She's a mutant zombie. The protagonist gasps out the only name left in his heart, Yelian. But there's no time for a happy reunion. The mutant lets out a blood-curdling roar and lunges straight for his puppet's throat. In a world overrun by the infected, the ultimate nightmare isn't losing your own life. It's watching the person you swore to protect turn into a monster right before your eyes. Blood spatters across the darkness as a razor-sharp claw tears through flesh with terrifying precision. A shadowy figure strikes from the dark, completely impaling a hostile zombie in a single devastating movement. The protagonist watches in utter disbelief. The girl he knew, the girl he was trying to save, now stands with piercing, crimson-red eyes. She is infected, but there is no time to mourn. If his own zombie puppet is destroyed by her, she might run away forever. He knows he has to take control of her first, or all his efforts will be wasted. Closing his eyes, the protagonist activates his unique ability. His consciousness violently separates from his physical body, transforming into a glowing blue avatar of spiritual energy. He dives deep into the unseen void, desperately trying to sense her spirit. And then, he sees it, suspended in the endless dark. A faint, pink light glows. It is her spirit, curled up, fragile, and completely vulnerable. He doesn't hesitate. He extends his hand, launching a bright blue thread of energy to bind her consciousness to his. But the moment the thread connects, the real world erupts in chaos. Her physical body violently rejects the control. She thrashes against the unseen chains, her red eyes burning with feral rage as she shatters the glass and concrete around her. The protagonist is stunned. He has never seen a case like this. The infected are supposed to be mindless husks. But she is resisting, which means she must have mutated to retain her self-awareness. Realizing the impossible odds, the protagonist refuses to back down. If she still has a self-awareness, there is a chance, a microscopic chance, to bring her back to normal. He pours every ounce of his soul into the glowing threads, wrapping them tightly around her spirit. He has to succeed. Silence finally falls over the blood-stained hallway. The protagonist collapses against the wall, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. He breathes a heavy sigh of relief. He calls out to her, and slowly, she turns around. The feral rage is gone. She is calm. But what happened next completely shattered his understanding of the infected. She isn't looking at him. She's staring blankly at the mangled corpse of the monster she just killed. The protagonist follows her gaze, realizing exactly what she is waiting for. He approaches the dead zombie, reaching deep into its shattered skull. When he pulls his hand out, a strange, glowing red gel rests in his palm. It pulses like a tiny, crystallized heart. The girl's eyes lock onto it. She begins to drool, her primal instincts taking over. Gently, the protagonist offers it to her. She doesn't hesitate, taking the red gel into her mouth. The moment she swallows it, a massive surge of power ripples through their spiritual connection. In the spirit realm, the protagonist's blue avatar is washed over by an incredible, warm sensation. It is unlike anything he has ever felt. It is pure, concentrated life force. The girl's spirit smiles, absorbing the energy and gathering tremendous strength. The protagonist clenches his fist in absolute awe. The power contained within that single, mutated gel was beyond imagination. But as he marvels at this newfound strength, he still hasn't realized that by feeding her the monster's core, he might have just started an evolution that no human could ever hope to control. The protagonist looked at the girl standing before him. Her clothes were torn, her skin stained with blood. He gently reached out, touching her cold face. He made a silent vow. No matter what it took, he would find a way to cure her. But the infected don't understand promises. Without warning, her hand shot forward. A razor-sharp claw slashed through the air, aiming straight for his throat. He barely threw himself backward, his heart pounding in his chest as her claws grazed his skin. The spiritual thread connecting their minds was violently flickering. It was weakening. He realized with a sickening surge of panic. If that connection broke, the girl he was trying to save would slaughter him without a second thought. He forced his mind to focus, stabilizing the bond just in time. That was way too close. He needed to get her out of the open and find her some clean clothes. They walked through the ruined city, finally arriving outside an abandoned clothing store. But the entrance wasn't empty. 4 decaying zombies were blocking the path. Instantly, the girl's body tensed. A terrifying aura of killing intent exploded from her. Her crimson eyes locked onto the undead. The protagonist knew exactly what she was looking at. She didn't just want to kill them. She was hungry for the mutated gels hidden deep inside their brains. He drew his combat knife. If she was going in, he was going with her. The girl launched herself forward like a bullet. She slammed into the concrete with devastating force, shattering the ground beneath her and tearing through the undead with terrifying ease. The protagonist watched in awe, but a dark realization crept into his mind. She was getting stronger, too strong. If he didn't improve his own strength, his mind wouldn't be able to handle her. The spiritual thread would eventually snap under the weight of her power. And if he lost control, she would kill him. And even if he miraculously survived, she would wander off into the ruins of the endless city, and he would never find her again. He couldn't let that happen. With a fierce battle cry, he charged into the horde alongside her. He drove his boot into a monster's chest, burying his knife deep into its skull. Side by side, human and monster moved as a lethal duo, painting the streets in blood. When the slaughter was over, she eagerly consumed the red gels torn from the monsters' heads. But as she swallowed them, something impossible happened. The protagonist gasped. He looked down at his own hands. As her body absorbed the mutated energy, a burning heat rushed through his veins. He could feel his own physical strength surging. Because of their spiritual link, they were sharing the power. But it wasn't just physical. As he stood among the mutilated corpses, he realized his breathing was perfectly calm. The paralyzing terror he usually felt when fighting the infected was completely gone. He stared at the girl. The feral rage and bloodlust inside her consciousness was slowly bleeding into his own mind. He was controlling the monster, but he was just beginning to realize the monster was starting to change him. With the horde wiped out, the chaotic streets gave way to the eerie silence of an abandoned clothing store. Her white dress was completely ruined, soaked in the dark blood of the monsters they had just slaughtered. He scanned the racks of pristine clothes, trying to figure out what would fit her. But then, a sudden realization hit him. He felt the blood rush to his face. She couldn't dress herself. He was going to have to do everything. He awkwardly held up a change of underwear, his cheeks burning red, while she just stared back at him with those empty, crimson eyes. She had absolutely no idea why he was so embarrassed. He led her into the store's bathroom, turning on the tap and soaking a clean towel. The adrenaline from the fight was entirely gone, replaced by a heavy, awkward tension. He approached her slowly. She didn't resist. She just stood there, completely passive, waiting for him. It was a jarring, heart-breaking contrast. Just minutes ago, she was a terrifying apex predator, tearing through concrete and flesh. But right now, she was entirely helpless. She was completely reliant on him. He took a deep, shaky breath, desperately trying to steady his trembling hands. Calm down, he muttered to himself. Gently, he reached out and began to lift the ruined, blood-stained dress over her head. He forced himself to look away, his face flushed, his heart hammering violently against his ribs. It was an impossible situation. How was he supposed to keep his composure when the girl he was